If you have sticker shock for what you're paying for car insurance these days, trust me, you are not alone. This year, the average cost for insurance jumped more than 20%, and a recent survey shows nearly half of all customers are shopping for new policies.
So could you be getting a better rate? 12 News journalist Joe Dana recently discovered that getting even basic answers about your rates may not be so easy.
As a reporter, I usually tell you about other people's experiences. But when I tried to get a breakdown of my own family's car insurance costs, it was such a baffling, bizarre series of conversations and contradictions, I asked an expert if my experience reflects a bigger problem.
Navigating your auto insurance policy can involve twists and turns. But at the end of the road, you deserve to know whether you're paying for unnecessary or unexpected costs.
There are some things that you can do to have a better understanding to know when something is off.
Welcome to USAA.
I called up my car insurance company to get details about our family's rate. It seemed unusually high. We have 3 members in our household driving 3 cars. Insurance companies consider many factors like driving records, experience, and the car's make and model. In our case, one driver is a teenager, and this guy, unfortunately, had a minor traffic violation from 2021. A 4th family member had obtained his own insurance for his car and was out of the house.
I spoke to 4 different employees over nearly 2 hours to try to figure out who was being charged what for which car and why the overall total was so high. It was like getting different directions leading to dead ends and detours.
This is the first time you're telling me after I've been on a phone with your company now for more than an hour and a half.
Finally, I learned my oldest son was still being counted in our rate plan, even though he wasn't driving our cars. Resolving that discrepancy saved us more than $100 a month. If I had not pressed for more answers, I would not have learned the true reason for our high rate.
How common is it for someone to get contradicting information?
There's very little transparency between the insurance company and policyholders. There's also very little transparency within the different departments of the insurance company.
Shannon Martin with Bankrate is a national expert on the insurance industry. She says it's tougher for consumers to get straight answers about their policies.
You're going up the chain of commands in customer service, not in underwriting.
That's because she says people who are familiar with the underwriting process are less likely than ever to interact with customers.
What's been replacing them is either AI or new agents. The amount of training has gone down drastically. So the impact to the policyholder, I believe, is really strong.
USAA tells me their goal is to provide personalized and accurate information on every interaction, saying USAA's call centers are appropriately staffed with thousands of highly trained professionals. We continually evaluate our service to refine operations and deliver a better experience to our members. And even after resolving our problem, what I could never get was a full breakdown of the entire policy. One manager I spoke with at USAA compared the rates from the underwriting team as a secret sauce.
The part about the secret sauce, that actually is true. Will you always be able to calculate why your insurance costs what it costs? No.
Martin says you should still request as much transparency as possible and arm yourself for the phone call. Write down questions beforehand and download your rate agreement and what's known as the class code.
And that's a way for you to kind of check them to make sure they haven't made any changes you're not aware of.
Regarding the underwriting process, USAA says they comply with strict state regulations that ensure fairness and transparency, and they add, they, like all insurance companies, protect their proprietary methods used to price risk, which help maintain competitive pricing and financial stability for policyholders.
All right, Joe Dana joins us now with the backstory. Joe, there is probably not one person watching right now that hasn't been through this rigmarole with insurance companies. Yeah. When you worked on this story, and I know it took a lot of work, what was the most eye-opening thing?
You know, for me, it was the fact that I've spent years dealing with agencies, bureaucracies, and systems, so I know questions to ask. I know when it gets to the point you need to say, I need to talk to someone else. Even for me, I'm 90 minutes, almost 2 hours into this process. I'm getting different information about our rates. And finally, I was able to get something more substantial, and it was a very costly error that the company had made. And I'm thinking, okay, if that's me, what about just the average consumer out there, right, who's not used to dealing with these types of systems? And so very frustrating. And the fact that more and more industries, it's not just the car insurance industry, they're relying on these call centers. instead of experienced longtime employees. You're dealing with people who just don't have firsthand experience in the industry you're dealing with. And so you have to be persistent.
You know what was surprising to me is that state law doesn't require these insurance companies to really be transparent and reveal what that secret sauce is.
Yeah.
How can we know as a consumer if we're getting a fair deal or not?
So you should definitely ask the person on the line to talk to a frontline underwriter. Some companies will still offer them. They can explain to you in pretty good detail generally the secret sauce, right, if you want to know. The State Department of Insurance, as I'm showing right here, they have actually a great database that shows all kinds of profiles of real people with their insurance and the different companies. So you can see, okay, a profile of a 21-year-old single man in Glendale. They get this much with this insurance company, and then you can see how all the other companies are paying. So you can see comparisons. That is one tool you can use. If you, though, legitimately feel that you're being discriminated against or you've been wrongly charged for months past because you've identified some kind of error, you need to contact the Department of Insurance, file a claim. They field a lot of these claims, and a lot of them do relate to errors in the rates. Because remember, you've got different departments at these companies. You were wondering, you said, you sometimes wonder if like the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. Right? Our expert says she's not so sure that isn't on purpose. You know, because then certain people within the company can claim plausible deniability. And so when you, between sales and service and the call center, those taking your calls, don't assume they're all looking at the same database and the same information.
Well, we don't have time to go into it right now, but right now I'm a victim fighting with an insurance company.
You are.
It's no fun.
Ugh.
It is no fun.
All right, I'm going to interview you tomorrow.
That's a story for another day.
Okay.
Joe, totally relatable. I'm sure this helped a lot of people.
Hope so. We have the full story online right now.
Yeah, thank you.